Hi, everybody. It's Rachel Leonard of the Bridal Council. This is Meet the Expert series, and today we're with gown preservationist Jonathan Scheer, CEO and founder of J Scheer Company. Jonathan is recommended by top luxury salons to preserve your gown, and designers such as Carolina Herrera, Amsala, Galia Lahab, Peter Langner, Ray Mocker, Vera Wang, you name it, Naeem Khan, all recommend that you get your gown preserved after your wedding by Jonathan Scheer. How are you today?
Hi, Rachel. How are you? It's nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
Thanks for having me.
We're thrilled to have you.
My pleasure.
So, Jonathan, tell everybody what is your background in preserving fine textiles?
So, I entered the graduate program in conservation at the Smithsonian, the Conservation Analytical Laboratory there, long time ago, some 22 years ago, and studied textile science. Subsequent to my training there, I did a rather lengthy internship at the Textile Conservation Laboratory at the Cathedral of St. John the Divine in New York. And have worked with a lot of conservation laboratories throughout the country during the course of my business life. And there's always ongoing training through membership in organizations.
Yeah, there must be new technologies and new...
Technology is always changing. When I look back 25 years ago, we do things very much differently now than we did then because we have more knowledge. Knowledge is power.
Right. That's great. That's wonderful. What services does J Scheer Company provide?
So we provide conservation cleaning services for all kinds of textiles, from historic textiles to flat textiles to mostly three-dimensional textiles, which are people think of as garments. And our primary audience are private clients who have couture wedding gowns, designers who create those beautiful dresses, the stores who sell them. I work for I consult with museum conservation laboratories. And we work for archives, mostly designer archives.
Okay.
And we perform conservation cleaning treatments and mending, and we prepare these items for long-term storage in either home environments or museum environments.
So basically, explain why a bride who's worn her gown would preserve her dress with a conservationist versus a typical neighborhood dry cleaner.
Yeah, so to me, there are three primary reasons. The first is risk. Neighborhood dry cleaners have a very important function in life. They're fine for cleaning work clothing and everyday use clothing, but not so much for more complex textiles that might have many non-woven components, embellishments that are made of fabrics that are more complicated to clean than regular everyday work. Transparency is really important, which is to say, we share with clients everything that we know and see. We create condition reports. We examine everything very carefully. We describe treatment plans with clients. So there's a lot of transparency.
So you have conversations back and forth. You see a
all the time.
Like this could be
all the time.
Like, what is this? What do you remember spilling on that?
Yeah, we ask a lot of questions. This is what we've found. A stain might have been pre-treated. Can you share with us what you did?
Yeah.
Because the chemistry of any substance can change if it's been pre-treated.
Isn't water bad for a stain? Is that true?
It depends on what type of stain it is. Yes, if there's a liquid stain and you apply water or seltzer, which is typically what a waiter will tell you to do.
Right.
Any portion of that stain that is not removed or flushed out of the fibers will set.
Okay.
Once it dries, it will set, and then it becomes much more difficult to remove because, again, the chemistry of the stain has changed and it's now interacted with the fiber chemistry.
So is it best if you get a stain not to do anything till you take it to somebody like you than to try and remove it yourself?
Well, it depends what's a good question. It depends what you do to it. So I would recommend not doing anything that could make the stain more diffuse, spread it over a larger area.
Yeah.
I would not do anything to disturb the delicate weave of the fabric, which is to say, don't scrape it with a hard object. Don't brush it with a stiff bristled brush. The best thing you can do is apply powder to it and let that powder absorb the moisture.
Okay. Interesting.
And yeah, and if it's a wedding gown, for example,
right,
and you take with you on your wedding day some powder, and you can mix powder to replicate the color of the dress. So maybe it's a combination of baby powder and cornstarch or something like that.
Okay.
If you spill something, apply the powder, wipe a little bit of it off as it becomes moist, reapply it. It will help to mask that stain area, so it's less conspicuous.
Right.
But it will also do nothing to damage. It will not damage the fabric.
Oh, that's a very good tip. So how does the process work with working with you? How do we find you?
Yeah, so clients find me in typically one of three ways. They email us, they call us, they go to our website, or they fill out a form on our website inquiring about our services. And then we respond very quickly, either via a phone call or an email, depending on how they wish to be contacted. Okay. And that starts the process of inquiry, if you will, about our services.
Okay.
And either during that conversation or a subsequent conversation, hopefully an order will be placed. Uh-huh. We make it very easy to have a client get her dress to us.
And are you based?
And once we receive,
are you based in more than one place, right? Do you have more than one office?
So our main office, our lab where I am is in Rhinebeck, New York.
Okay.
Which is about an hour and a half north of Manhattan. And dresses come to us via UPS from all over the world.
Fabulous.
Once we receive the dress, we operate as a museum conservation lab would operate. We accession everything. We're very careful about what we receive. That begins the process of communication with the client. We let the client know we've received what she has sent to us. We itemize what's been sent so that the client can confirm we've received everything.
Right.
We create a condition report for each item, mm-hmm. which is a laborious process. Mm-hmm. I'm involved in the condition reporting process with one of my assistant conservators. We itemize everything that we find with the dress, from style to fabric to potential stains or damage incurred during wear. Wedding gowns can often undergo a tremendous amount of trauma during wear, depending how much fun the bride's had during the ceremony.
Exactly. Any of the dresses that you clean out, have they been jumped in the water? Did they jump in the water?
Yes, I've seen everything. Yes. The short answer is I'm rarely surprised by what I find. Yeah. And some assignments are more complicated than others.
I'm sure.
And we share all of that with the client. Once we've done that condition report, that information is shared with the client via an email or a phone call.
Okay, and that's based on your pricing, then that's how the pricing.
Well, at that point, we'll price and we'll share the price with the client. Okay. The client will approve. We will discuss treatment plan, what we're going to do and why. Okay. And then our work begins. And
then you pack them so beautifully. I mean, you did my gown. I mean, I haven't opened it.
Rachel, open it. So that's the whole idea. We want you to enjoy it.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm going to wear it. Yeah, I should have. Anyway, so you preserve it differently than obviously the dry cleaners.
Very much so. Yeah. I mean, our process is governed by best conservation practices. And so every piece of material we use is chemically inert or acid-free. We don't seal any textile in any environment. The best that can be said about that is that it's silly. The worst that can be said is that it runs contrary to everything we know about the safe storage of textiles in a conservation environment.
Okay.
So yeah, the conservation box is a box that's especially made for us.
Uh-huh.
All of our acid-free tissues and all of the lofting and stuffing materials that we use are purchased from conservation supply houses, the same houses that museums purchase their supplies from.
Oh, that's cool. So it's important that we preserve the gown. And how soon should you preserve your gown, A? And then what is the sustainable practice about it?
So in a perfect world, I want to see the dress 10 minutes after it's taken off.
Okay.
Because fresh stains are the easiest stains to reduce. Can be done very safely. Outcomes are extraordinarily positive. But I recognize that we don't live in a perfect world. And so, brides often find us a month or 2 months or 3 months or 6 months after the wedding, a year after the wedding. In the fullness of time, the chemistry of whatever that stain matter is will interact with the fiber chemistry.
Right.
And so yarns begin to oxidize.
Okay.
Depending on how aggressive the stain is, how acidic it is, how sugary it is, the oxidation process can be rapid or not. Okay. And so the types of stains that cause rapid oxidation are wine stains, mm-hmm. because of the acidity, coffee and tea for the same reason. Mm-hmm. Soils and oils are less aggressive.
Okay.
And so, one can safely wait a little longer with that. But I see dresses that are generations old, and right. we have successful outcomes. So
that's great. So the sustainable practice of doing what you're doing is repurposing.
So it is. It's repurposing. Any dress that stays in a family's possession and becomes part of their family cultural history is a dress that doesn't find its way into a landfill.
Exactly.
Or is thrown out or is trashed beyond comprehension. But beyond that, now that I've been here for a generation, we have a lot of our former clients calling us who now have children, who want to repurpose their wedding gowns.
That's so great.
It's great. It's just wonderful. So we often find that christening gowns or baby blankets are made out of a wedding gown, and in doing so, family cultural history is maintained and continues, and that's really a very special thing. And I find that after COVID and after this horrible experience that we've all endured, I have found I have two observations. The first of which is women have had a lot of time to go through the closets,
right?
And they find old dresses and old things, and so we've done that. But also family ties have strengthened.
Thank you so much. This was so interesting. And
Rachel, it's my pleasure
talking to you. And
thank you for having me.
Thank you again, Jonathan.
Rachel, it's my pleasure. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.